As you probably know, most video games are a power fantasy. You get stronger, you beat bigger bad guys as you progress through the game. But that isn't true for every game.
I'm afraid.
Some games really beat you down. They take away what you already have and make your video game life way harder. So here are 10 rare games that actually make you weaker as you progress. Starting off at number 10, Red Dead Redemption 2. This does something that we've never really seen before in a big AAA game. It makes you weaker pretty deep into the game. Red Dead Redemption 2 is already kind of a weird game compared to other mainstream open world mass market games. It's purposefully slow, it's kind of willfully obtuse in just how all these interlocking systems work, with one of the most elaborate control schemes that we've seen from a mainstream game of this level. Rockstar really wanted to make this the most authentic feeling Wild West game ever, so of course you'd also get some old-timey disease in this game. So deep in the main game's story, Arthur Morgan is diagnosed with tuberculosis.
Really sorry for you, son. It's a hell of a thing.
What do you mean?
You're real sick. It's a progressive disease.
After your diagnosis, Arthur actually gets a permanent debuff, causing all of his cores to drain 20% faster. You also can't overeat to restore quickly. Food now actually has a limited effect, and Arthur will remain underfed no matter how much you try to eat to compensate, to simulate being sick. He'll also start coughing at a point. Later on in the game, the only way to refill your cores is through sleep. It's a punishing change in a game that is already surprisingly punishing. You gotta keep on that stuff. And it's the kind of thematic, unexpected change in such a big game that only people like Rockstar would really attempt. Also, not only does it affect gameplay a little bit, but it affects your heart because it's emotionally impactful and effective. And speaking of emotionally impacted, if you haven't subscribed yet, you should. If you do, it'll impact us emotionally. Thank you. Thanks for joining us on this ride. Anyway, next at number 9, Mio, Memories in Orbit. This is fresh off the Steam presses. This is a game that consistently makes you, the player, weaker the further you explore, and it's easily the most controversial aspect of this game. In this pretty hardcore Metroidvania, you lose 2 health circles right at the start of the game, and lose even more later on. Certain areas of the map will trigger an event that actually drains your health, making you die faster. That's an alarming debuff in a video game where enemies get stronger and stronger as you go. Interestingly, the game balances this permanent health penalty by doing the same to all the enemies. They're also a little bit weaker, but the trade-off isn't exactly 1-to-1. You're still at a disadvantage at the end of the day, and it's a brutal way to up the skill ceiling in a game that begs for comparisons to something like Silksong. Look, Mio does give you ways to mitigate the hit to your maximum health. There are upgrades that increase your HP, like in most Metroidvanias, but the critical difference here is that you're working your way back up to where you started, instead of a baseline where you're just getting more and more powerful. There are ways to avoid the health debuff by avoiding the areas, but you'll never know this on your first run. It's one of the nastiest video game gimmicks we've seen recently. Dark Souls punishes you for dying, but gives you ways to restore your health back before a boss. Mio takes your health forever and forces you to claw your way to getting it back. Next at number 8, the purest example of this whole idea for this list comes from a little known action RPG called Sinner: Sacrifice for Redemption. This is actually a boss rush game. It's about taking on embodiments of the 7 deadly sins. It's pretty cool. You can choose what order to fight these bosses in, but there is a catch. So before summoning a new boss, you're forced to sacrifice something. You might sacrifice your maximum health, lose stamina, or make your weapons weaker. One boss will cause your shield to break if you guard too much, while, another one lowers your total health potions. It's a brutal system that forces you to carefully pick and choose what order you fight these bosses in. There are 7 bosses to choose from and a final 8th boss you'll battle with every sacrifice made. Again, it's a boss rush mode, but it's one that requires you to learn these bosses back and forwards, figuring out what bosses require your full strength and what bosses you can take on while you're severely weakened. Gotta say, it's one of the meanest versions of this type of game, and one of the jankiest too. And it doesn't really have the basics down right. The controls are completely mixed up, parrying doesn't feel right, and nothing really works the way it should. Maybe that's the biggest sacrifice of all, but still, it's an interesting gameplay mechanic for a boss rush game. Next at number 7, Sifu, of course. This is a great example of getting weaker. If you don't know, it's a martial arts brawler, a really damn good one, where your character ages after every death. The number of years you lose after each death increases until you're starting to lose entire decades of your limited lifespan here. And then once you're too old, you'll just die permanently. After each decade, you'll also lose maximum health. Your maximum health decreases, but your damage increases. It's a trade-off that turns you into kind of a glass cannon, forcing you to get better or die faster. It's a cool way of simulating like the classic old master, where you could be a well-trained martial artist that's 80 years old and it looks like the wind could blow you over, but one perfect strike and you can still kill anyone with your damn bare hands. It's cool, man. It's a great game. Along with that, you're also unable to learn skills from the skill tree at a point. Like a learned move stays learned, but you'll be blocked from learning anything new if you age up. It's a fun mechanic that forces you to just replay levels and really master them. The goal is to take advantage before you get too old. Really maximize your youth. Maximizing your remaining years is incredibly important if you want to take down this brutally difficult final boss. The last boss is on such a different level of already difficult stuff. It's insane. It's like the rest of the game feels like a training session. You're gonna want all your years you can spare for taking him down. Sifu is one of the coolest, most stylish, unique action games of the decade, and it's one of the most satisfying to replay over and over again, specifically because of this mechanic. It sounds hard, and it is really hard, but it's also just so interesting. Now at number 6, Metal Gear Solid 3. It's an awesome example of weakening the player in a really unexpected way. So late in the story, our hero is captured and tortured by the bad guys. During this pretty intense torture sequence, Snake actually gets wrecked by a gunshot, permanently blinding his right eye. And this isn't just a story injury either. Like, we're all used to video game protagonists just immediately bouncing back from brutal cutscene injuries, but there's a permanent change here. From this point on, entering first-person view blocks Snake's peripheral vision. He's blind in his right eye, so the player is too. In a third-person camera, you'll still see normally, but aiming down sights actually removes a small portion of the screen. A very, very small portion of the screen, like you'll have to look closely to notice the black murky area on the right. It's hard to miss, but still, it's cool that they included it. And the blindness feature is actually even more interesting in the 3DS port version of it. On 3DS, after Snake loses an eye, the actual 3D component of the 3DS, the slider, stops working. Snake has lost his depth perception, which is an important part of the plot, so the player loses it too. Unless you have your own 3DS, you can't really experience this feature. It's the sort of bonkers, small, little detail we've come to expect from Kojima games. It feels like no one else in big budget video game development is willing to just severely inconvenience or annoy a player for a small story detail like this, and we love them for that. Next at number 5, I feel like a lot of people that love freaky indie games they're all yelling at their screen right now because we haven't mentioned Fear and Hunger yet. This is a game that just prides itself on making you weaker. Make a few mistakes at the start and you'll just be struggling to survive with no arms. You're just headbutting monsters while you slowly bleed out. Fear and Hunger are like literal status effects in the game. If you're exposed to your fears or don't find enough food, you'll lose maximum health or take more damage from enemies. Yes, you can even lose your legs and limbs and crawl around on the floor. There are so many nasty status effects for this game. A lot of them are permanent or so difficult to cure that they might as well be permanent. That we can't discuss here for reasons of good taste, but Fear and Hunger is a sicko game, and the sequel really doubles down on this awfulness. You don't earn XP in this game, so battles are more likely to leave you with disabilities that don't go away. This can happen early in the game where it's bad enough, but if you're really crippled near the end, that might just completely ruin your current run. Most games on this list make you weaker in ways that the player can, somewhat overcome or adapt to. Fear and Hunger, it blinds you, it poisons you, it starves you, it infects you with intestinal worms. It's insane. Now at number 4, Pirates, Sid Meier's Pirates. This is a game that's really a race against your own mortality. This is a colorful, high seas pirate simulator, and you're on a quest for revenge against the Marquis that enslaved your family. You're free to explore the Caribbean, recruit shipmates, build up your pirate ship to take on bigger, more dangerous ships. This is a game that's all about progression, but there's one way you'll inevitably get weaker. Time passes in this game, so for every year you're menacing the 7 seas, your main character will age and become slower. At the start of the game, at your youngest, you'll have the fastest movement speed while dueling. If you're too slow and take too many years to actually reach the ultimate enemy, it can be impossible to defeat him in one-on-one combat. Your final challenge is a sword duel no matter what, and the older you are, the harder it is to win. You can overcome some of the effects of age with better, beefier equipment, better crew, a better, stronger ship, but you'll still need to fight the villain at the end of the campaign. The entire game is really a race against the clock to beat the bad guy before you're too old and too slow to fight. It's kind of an interesting twist on XCOM's Doomsday counter. There's no hard limit to getting older, but you're still working on borrowed time, and that's cool and creative. Now down at number 3, Vampire or Vampire. It's the only game we can think of that makes becoming a blood-drinking creature of the night really kind of suck sometimes. No pun intended, sorry, I walked right into that. But at the start of this adventure, your vampire is actually significantly weaker than a regular human. You can't go outside during the day, for one, but if you're willing to use everyone in London for your next snack, you'll quickly become this all-powerful supernatural monster. Or you could be like us and choose the game's quote-unquote good path. Now in this game, you can play as an evil vampire or try to retain your basic humanity by refusing to drink blood. You can avoid drinking blood from any of the in-game NPCs, which is the only way to rapidly level up and unlock new abilities, so you're essentially saying no to getting better. Staying blood-free makes the game significantly more difficult. Enemies start to outpace you, making your choice to stay on the moral high ground more and more tempting. It really requires serious sacrifices.
Away with you! I shall fear no evil.
Now, we actually managed to beat Vampire without quenching too much of our vampiric thirst, and while you don't necessarily get weaker, the enemies do get a lot stronger. You're put in a constant disadvantage, forcing you to play this action game more like a survival simulator. It's a rewarding thing to earn a better ending, even if it's at the expense of ignoring one of the entire premises of the whole game, sucking blood, being a badass vampire. That's not a criticism. It's awesome that the developers really guilted us into playing the game in the more unoptimized way. A vampire game that actually feels like it has some ramifications. We love creative thinking like this in cool games. Now, down at number 2, Lisa, the painful RPG. It lives up to its name, right? So this is a game where you're forced multiple times to make really big sacrifices. There's no way to avoid these moments either. Now, in this grungy, kind of cult indie RPG, you're a big oaf on a quest to deal with this like kidnapped little girl. And on the way, you'll meet all sorts of weird characters, and you can trade them for your own well-being. When confronting a gang of raiders, you'll be given a choice. You can either sacrifice a party member or lose an arm. This actually happens twice, so you can technically lose both arms in this game if you make certain choices. Losing arms is a pretty big deal in Lisa, but it isn't game ending. You'll lose the ability to wield certain weapons, and eventually no weapons at all if you lose both arms, and your in-game character shows these permanent effects. Still, you'd be surprised how far you can actually get with just your trusty headbutt attack to get you through these encounters. Later, there's an even more ridiculous section where you're actually forced to play Russian roulette with your own party members. The results are random every time, so escaping this sequence with only a couple of party deaths really is like the best possible option. There's literally no way to avoid this or cheat the results. Reloading just gives you different odds. You're always screwed. You'll have to sacrifice some party members no matter what. It's a mean, unskippable sequence in a game that's already designed to be brutal and mean and uncomfortable, and they definitely succeeded. And now, lastly, down at number 1, Warcraft 3, The Frozen Throne. This is another kind of straightforward example of a game that makes you weaker in the Arthas campaign. At the start of the story, you're a leveled up Death Knight with all the abilities you're ever gonna need. By the end, you'll be level 2. Each subsequent level with the character Arthas has him lose a level, sometimes multiple, until he's basically back at the start.
I can't believe any of you survived the first purge. No matter. After today, your self-righteous order will cease to exist.
It's an interesting mechanic where you'll have the powerful hero to play around with at the very start of the campaign, but he becomes less powerful as you progress, forcing you to learn new strategies and use other unit abilities to actually overcome each challenge. The Lich King on the Frozen Throne is literally weakening as the story goes on, which weakens his followers, until you reach the very end. On the final mission, when Arthas is at his lowest, he'll finally be able to start earning XP and gaining levels again. At this point, you're likely to earn back everything you lost through the rest of the expansion campaign. You can easily go from level 2 to level 10 in this single mission, and Arthas becomes the top tier bad guy he was always meant to be. It's cool.
Cannot be matched.
Our hero has
Research complete.
This is the kind of thematic game mechanic that RTS games weren't really always known for. Warcraft 3 made you feel like an evil villain leading a doomed army, and the developers at Blizzard made getting weaker a lot of the fun. The payoff is incredible, and really, the payoff of this video. Thank you very much for watching. I'd love to know what you guys think about games where you get weaker as you progress. There are plenty of other games we couldn't fit on this list. We'd love to make a part 2, so let us know. Is a game making you weaker a bullshit mechanic? Is it compelling? Sometimes can it be a little both? Let's talk. If you like this video, clicking the like button helps us out, and subscribing, like I said, we put out videos every single day, so check them out. But thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you guys next time.